R2D2 is joining us to learn about how to add and subtract rational expressions. Before we do that, I want to remind you of what you learned way back in elementary school about just how to add fractions, because that really helps us prepare for how to add rational expressions. So remember, when you're adding, you need to get a common denominator. R2, you remember when you were adding and subtracting, you had to get a common denominator? I guess he does. Okay, so a common denominator here that we could get for this fraction would be 8. So if I want this to be 8, that means I would need to multiply the numerator and the denominator by 2. So my new fraction is 6/8. This one already has a denominator of 8, and then we didn't touch it. So then remember, we just added the numerators. So 6 plus 2 is 8, and we left the denominator the same, and then we simplified. 8 over 8 was 1. Okay, so now we're going to take what we know about fractions and apply it to this problem where we're trying to simplify a rational expression. Notice that we are adding, and so therefore we have to get a common denominator. We're going to shoot for an n squared denominator here because I know that I can multiply this fraction right here by n, and then both of my denominators will be n squared so that I can add the numerators. So I'm going to leave this one just like this. In order to get this to be n squared, this needs to be multiplied by n. Remember, over here, when we multiplied by 2 in the denominator, we had to multiply by 2 in the numerator. So we have to keep it the same because then it's really just like multiplying by 1. We're not changing it. So I need to multiply by n here, and that will leave me 5n. Now we've gotten a common denominator, we're ready to add the numerator. Notice here at this step we added 6 plus 2 to get 8, and we left the denominator the same. So here we are going to add 4n plus 5n, which is 9n over n squared. All right, R2, we have one step left, and that is to simplify. So we are looking to see if anything could reduce down. So I have an n over an n squared. So I can reduce that to be 9n. And that's as much as I can simplify that problem. Keep in mind, n squared means n times n. So all I did was cancel one of these n's to get 9 divided by n. You like that, R2? All right, let's do one more problem. All right, we're ready to try another example. Notice here this time we're subtracting, but we still need to get a common denominator first. On this one, you'll notice our denominators are completely different. When they're completely different, you can just multiply them together so that you have a common denominator. So I'm going to shoot for the common denominator being x minus 2 times x minus 3. So that's like my goal. All right. So in order for this denominator to be this, I need to multiply top and bottom by x minus 3. That should be there. All right. So then I need to multiply this out right here. So I'm going to do 6 times x is 6x minus 3. You're right, R2. I didn't multiply 6 times negative 3 here. This should be negative 18. Thanks for catching my mistake, R2. All right, now I'm going to multiply over here as well. This should be x minus 2 on top and bottom so that I can have this denominator match as well. So I'm going to distribute. R2, make sure I do it right this time. 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. I got it that time. All right, so now notice we're subtracting. We now have a common denominator, but we're subtracting. So don't forget to distribute your negative signs here. So this is going to turn into a negative 4 and a positive 8. That way I can now treat it like an addition problem. So my denominator is going to stay the same. It's going to be x minus 2 times x minus 3. And then I'm going to combine my like terms across the top. So I have a 6x minus 4x is going to be 2x. I have an 8, negative 18, and a positive 8 to be minus 10. The last thing we do is check to see if anything can simplify. If I was going to factor the numerator out here, I would get 2x minus 5, which I can already see is not going to cancel with anything in the denominator. So there's no need to simplify any farther. There's nothing I can do to simplify, so we just stop there. Thanks for joining us, R2, for helping us add and subtract rational expressions today. We've had fun together.